In this video tutorial, we're going to take a look at how I can take an image of a model like the one I have here and then convert all the image to grayscale, but yet have the color of red show and some of the color in the eyes. And we see effects like this in magazines and a lot of design work that we see in the market today. And this is not hard to do, and this is one of the ways to do it. There's many different ways to do it. You could use the pen tool and many different things, many different techniques. But I'm going to cover some things relating to how I would do this, and I'm going to get into the workings of the black and white tool in Adobe Photoshop as an adjustment layer. And I'm also going to be working with explaining some things about how that tool works relating to color and the 6 primary colors that are available in that tool, and we'll take a look at what goes on with the black and white conversion with that tool and how we can adjust that and where we can look for things relating to the quality that we have in our conversion of the black and white and how we'd like our black and white to look. To get started, I'll turn my original back on. That's selected. I'll just hit Control J to duplicate that. Then I'm going to go down to my adjustment layers and I'm going to select a black and white adjustment layer. Now over here in my colors, I'm set to black and white. I'm going to go to my paintbrush tool, or I could just hit B. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to come down here to her lips. I'm set to black. I'm going to left click, hold down, and you see as I left click and hold down, I'm painting in that mask on the mask layer for the black and white adjustment layer. Hit Z and go to my zoom tool and just zoom in here. I'll go back to my paint tool, and actually I'll just hit B to switch back. I'll just come up here, left click, and pull down through here and follow along where I can see where the lips would be. Now one thing we want, in my opinion, while we're doing this, and I'm doing this with a brush because I could do it with the pen tool to select it, but there's so much red in here that trying to pull that out would be very difficult, and I'm not really pulling out a lot of color with this image, so it's just going to be easier for me working with the paint tool and just creating the mask. Now I know there's shortcuts, but they don't seem to work for my keyboard, so I'll right click here. One thing we want to be aware of is the hardness of our brush. We really don't want a really hard brush. We want a kind of soft edge so that color will blend into the grayscale nicely and softly. And of course we can change the size of our brush here. We want to be aware of that when we're working. And I'll just keep going through here and creating this mask so that the color of the lips comes through the black and white adjustment layer according to the mask. Nice and soft edge there, and it blends right in. Now I'll hit Z, go to my zoom tool, zoom out, and we can see how that's working. I'll zoom back in. I'll hit B and go back to my brush, right click, and I'll change the size of that a little bit. Come back in here and I can come in right here along the edge of the mouth here. And I can right click again, make that even smaller, and get up right around through there. Come over here and bring in some of this here and just start bringing this in just like that. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and finish painting my mask, and I'll speed that up in the video because all I'll be doing for the next 3 or 4 minutes is working with the brush tool. So we'll speed that up and then we'll continue with the tutorial. So now the video's been sped up. It's actually took me about 4 minutes. And what I'm doing is just working my way through the mask, bringing out the color, changing the brush size to smaller size when I need to get into more detailed areas, working my way through the lip, and I've set up my colors as black and white so I can hit the X key to go back and forth between black and white to make adjustments. We'll go up here into the eye, get a bigger brush, and we'll bring some of the color of the eye in just to add some essence and pop to the eyes. I'll come over here and change to a white brush, and I'll adjust that. We'll go up into the bonnet, get a larger brush, get most of the bonnet with the larger brush, and then with a smaller brush come in and get the rest of the detail. And then we'll have our color pulled out of our grayscale, working with a black and white layer mask. Now that that's done, I could go through the rest of my fingernails here, but for the sake of the video I won't. I could get all of that also. Let me go to my mask. I'll hold down Alt and click on that. I just want to go over a couple of things. That'll bring that up. And I can zoom in here and see how I got things set up here, and this looks pretty good. I can go to my brush tool again. Now I had this set up as black and white. Now I can toggle between the black and white with the X key for a shortcut. I'll come in here and I'll just fill that in. And if I want to make some adjustments, I can go X and bring that white and maybe smooth this out a little bit here, etc., and work my way through and really dial in this mask if I want to spend the time working with the brush tool and toggling between black and white for my mask. But that'll be fine for now. I just wanted to touch on that. Go back to the image. I'll hit my Z key, zoom out, and we can see that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in an HSL adjustment layer. So I'll go to Hue and Saturation, and that's right here. Now here I've got my channels, but I'm not going to work with the master. I'm going to go into my channels. I'm going to go into the reds. I'm going to pull that saturation up and you'll see that adjustment. You can see it's going to bring that pop in. I'm going to go to my magentas because I know there's a lot of that in there also, and pull that up. I might move my magenta into the red a little bit, just like that. Now you can see that red really pop off of that grayscale. Next, let's take a look at the fundamentals of how these tools work. The black and white tool and the hue, saturation, and lightness tool. Let's take a look under the hood at what's going on. Here I have the same image, and I've set this up as a 6-color plus chroma, white, gray, and black. And I call these layer channels because they're really open channels. They have the grayscale gradients, the color adds, etc. And this is identical to the original image. Now, with the original image turned off, if I go to my black channel group and I turn that off, I've removed the black. If I remove the gray, all I have is the color plus the chroma, and chroma is where I do a lot of work with luminosity. Turn off the white channel and turn off the chroma channel. Now I have the pure color that's in the image. The chroma controls the luminosity, or the brightness of the color, also do the gray and the black. Now if I go down through here, I can see that each one of these color channels is based on 6 primary colors, the same as the black and white tool and the hue, saturation, and lightness tool. And I can look at my channels. I'll hold down Alt and look at the magenta, and I can see there's a lot of magenta that's in the image. And a lot of it is going to be here where we have flesh tone, but when that's converted to grayscale, we can control how that grayscale is applied to the image through the magenta slider in the black and white tool. Holding down Alt, I'll click again. The same with the blue. There's a lot of that here in the hair and in the shading. And you'll find that in the shading very often it's in the magentas, the blues, the reds. I'll hold down Alt again and click on that and come down to the red. Holding down Alt, I can see that as well. So where the darker or colors that have more depth to them, that's where you'll find them typically in the shading in the grayscale. But the lighter colors like the yellow, holding down Alt, I'll click this, you'll find those in the lighter areas. So we're dealing with 6 primary colors that are under the hood of those 2 tools. If I take the black and white tool here, and first I want to turn all of my layers back on, actually my layer channels. I'm going to turn on my chroma layer channels. And you can see that's the chroma application. I'm going to turn on my white. There won't be any effect for that. Turn on my gray. There's the gray. And there's my black. So we're working under the hood of the gray, black, white, and chroma and dealing with what's going on with the hue or color in the image working with these tools. If I go to, and I have an adjustment layer set up here for the black and white, and I go to that and I click on that, and I have that set to maximum white. I'm going to reset that to maximum white. You can see what happened. What that did was just turned all of the hues white. So there's no density of the grayscale for any of the hues. However, you can see that some of this looks faded out. So if I go to the magenta slider and push that back in, I'll bring some of that shading back in. The same with the blue slider. Left click, pull that in, and I'll bring some of that in. And the red, the same. Bring some of that back in. I brought some of that shading back in that looked kind of washed out. The yellow also. I can make an adjustment with that and make that brighter above the cheekbone there if I wanted to. So that's how working with these color sliders from the 6 primary colors that are under the hood of the black and white tool in Adobe Photoshop based on these channels. I'll turn that off, and I also have a hue, saturation, and lightness. I'm going to go to that and I'll click on that. Same thing here. The 6 primary colors, just like we see here in the channels. And we've got the magentas and the reds, and we made our adjustments to those to bring up the pop in the lips. So now we understand that under the hood of this is the 6 primary colors that we're able to adjust in the grayscale values for the sliders in the black and white tool, and also work with them in the HSL tool. And like I said, this is just the fundamentals of these tools and how they work and what's going on under the hood. We'll go back to the file I was working with, and now you can see what's going on there when I go to my black and white tool, and I'll bring my magenta back a bit, and I'll leave the blue back. I brought some of that shading in. Go to the red and bring some of that back. Go to the yellow and brighten up above the cheeks a little bit, and really dial in my black and white or grayscale conversion working with the color sliders in the black and white adjustment layer or adjustment tool. And I was also able to go to my hue, saturation, and lightness, go to my red channel, once again one of the 6 primaries, bump the saturation, same with the magenta, bump that and push it a little bit into the red. I'll go back to my black and white adjustment layer. I'm going to take this red and bring that out a little bit more. I'm going to take this yellow and bring that out and get some more brightness in the grayscale and really dial that in. Next, I'm going to zoom into the nose piercing. I'm going to go to the hue and saturation adjustment layer, come down and create a new layer above that. I'm going to change my color from white to pure red. Select OK. Then I'm going to hit B and go to the brush tool. That's just about the right size, so I'll just tap that. I'm going to change the blend mode here to linear burn, and you can see that effect. I click off here just so I'm not in the blend modes anymore. Then I'm going to hit Z to change to the zoom tool. I'm going to zoom out, and on the same layer I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to move my properties here to the ring. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush again, I'll hit B, I make sure I've got my layer selected. Hit B. Got my brush here. I'll start to lay down some red there. I'm going to right click. I'll bring this down to about 7 pixels. And then I'm just going to come in over here with the red on top of the ring. Now we're zoomed way in here. I'll just bring this down here and then up here like that. Then I'll hit my Z key again. I'll zoom out and I can see how I've got all of my effects set up for pulling that red out of the gray, pulling the eyes out, and then adding the red to the ring and the piercing. So in this tutorial we've taken a look at how we can take a color image, convert it to grayscale with the black and white adjustment layer, then work with the layer mask of the black and white adjustment layer to pull the reds out and the magentas and the eyes. Then work with the HSL tool to bring some pop and vibrance into that color. And then work with a layer to add red to our nose piercing and our ring. And we've also taken a look under the hood at how these tools work, that being the black and white adjustment layer and its 6 primary color sliders and how those affect your grayscales and tweaking and adjusting your grayscales, and the HSL tool and how it works with the 6 primary colors and how we can work with those. And once again, we just covered the fundamentals. There'll be many different ways to do this. This is just one way. We'll go ahead and wrap here, and we'll see you in our next video.